Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you all to the of today's afternoon session. I hope we are all doing well. Today we have the pleasure of having Dr. K. Satyanarayan with us. Sir is professor and head Department of Veterinary and Animal Husbandry Extension Education, Veterinary College, Bengaluru. And the topic chosen by our esteemed guest is village adoption as a strategy for sustainable development field experiences. Sir, you are audible as well as visible. Uh, you just need to unmute yourself so that you will be audible because I see a mute icon at your screen. Can you unmute? No, you are on mute. You are still on mute. There's a mute icon shown next to you. You have to go to the Chrome window. Click on Chrome window where you see my face. At the bottom, there would be a yeah, click on Chrome window at the bottom. Drag your mouse to the Chrome window bottom. Yeah, can you click on the Chrome window where we started the call? Chrome is at the yeah, perfect. Click on it. Yeah, go to the window where you see my face. Yeah, there is a microphone icon which is red. Yeah, left at the bottom, left center one, the left icon.
Yeah,
My yeah, perfect.
yeah,
Let us come to the PPT. Can you do it full screen for the PPT? Go to the PPT
yeah,
and
yeah. It's full screen, no?
it is yes. But
Yeah.
anyways, you can start, sir. You are audible as well as visible, and your presentation is also visible. And we have started recording the session.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, all the participants. Now, I have a small presentation of the topic village adoption as extension strategy for sustainable development in the rural area, and whatever the field experience that we got from our university, our college, that I'll be sharing with you. Now, before actually going to the actual topic, as we know, soon after the independence, the country with different 5-year plans wanted to, have the different strategies for increasing the production because it has to match with the population growth. And probably you would have heard one incident wherein probably 1970, 1956, 57, during that period, there was an article in American Journal wherein it was mentioned that in India, after the independence, the population is too high, and accordingly, the food production is not at all being increased. And they mentioned that probably after another 3-4 years, India becomes another Ethiopia, wherein you have heard and seen the different photographs of Ethiopia with starvation and other things. So when that article was seen, that one Dr. C. Subramaniam, the then Agriculture Minister of Government of India, he called all the agriculture scientists, the progressive farmers, and many of the people who are connected with this food production. And he said, whatever you do, this situation should not be there. India should progress with all its capacity to be self-sufficient in food production. And that, it actually initiated the Green Revolution. We brought different types of the agriculture production. So that importance was given to the production and to increase it, the different technologies that were existing anywhere in the part of the world was brought here. Chemical fertilizers were introduced, hybrids were introduced, and by all these methods, by 1970s, actually they say in the late 80s, but in 1970 only, in Australia, there was one conference, world conference, wherein they declared that India became self-sufficient in food production. And to do this, there are the central and state governments did so many extension programs, Grow More Food, and so many other programs were launched and implemented by which India could become self-sufficient in food production. And as we know, from 1970 onwards, the White Revolution started with Operation Flood 1, 2, 3. We should thank Dr. Kurian, who was the father of our White Revolution. And with all the activities, with Amul pattern of the dairy cooperatives, three-tier system, India could achieve the highest milk production in the world by 1998. In the similar fashion, the other programs were also there regarding fish production, egg production, meat production, and we have actually gone ahead of meeting the demand, and accordingly supply is also being taken care. But still there are some lacunae in as far as the food production is concerned. Of course, milk, we have achieved self-sufficiency. Not only that, as per the ICMR recommendation, we have reached 414 grams per head per day availability is there, against 280 grams of recommendation by the ICMR. But in case of meat production and egg production, we are still lagging behind. So, and also in food production, of course, we have achieved self-sufficiency, but there are some lacunae in the case of pulse production and other things. So all these things were possible, the increased production was possible with the different extension programs wherein the research findings or the scientific methods of production reached the farmers. But was it sufficient? It was not sufficient because the progress was not in all the directions. Only limited type of farmers, they were involved in the increasing production. As we know in India, small and marginal farmers, they occupy the major chunk of the farming community. They were not actually involved in the increasing of production or in green revolution. So that's why the present extension focus should be on other aspects. In some areas, we have achieved the very high production, but in some cases, very low production. In all these aspects, the different strategies should be there. One is to reduce the cost of production. Probably we all heard of how to increase, double the income of farmers. So it is one of the strategies that how we can reduce the cost of production. It should be one of the strategies for our extension programs. And second one is to improve the animal productivity. Though we reach the milk production, highest milk production in the world, but per animal productivity is still very low. And another thing is to increase the quality production. Just I am giving more of examples related to animal husbandry because I am from animal husbandry sector. For example, in milk production, as I mentioned, the availability is too high. 414 grams are available per head per day, but against the 280 grams of recommendation, but the quality of milk is not there as per the international standards. If at all we want to export the milk or milk products, it is not possible because of the quality concerns. If, for example, in Karnataka, we are producing around 85 to 90 lakh liters of milk production collection is there every day. But in a position to market only 45 lakh of the liquid milk, another 5 lakh in the form of the curds, and another 5 lakh for the sweet production. Still, we are left with another 25 to 30 or more than that lakh of liters of milk, which is to be converted into milk powder, which is a costly affair. And even the milk powder also, thousands of tons are now laying in the godowns of the KMF. So, if at all we need to think of export, then the quality issue will be definitely one of the major areas that is of concern, that we need to do some extension work. Then another thing is equipping the farmers to face the challenges in the farming and marketing. Now earlier, as I mentioned, it was production-led extension that we were concentrating. Now it should be more of the market-led extension that we need to concentrate so that the producers, especially the perishable items, will have the right market and right price will be there for the produce. And every day the farmers are also facing newer challenges, that how they can face those challenges. That is another area of that work that extension workers should do. Then extensive marketing research also to be taken up, and the knowledge of consumer behavior also should be made known to the farming community as well as the society. So these are certain areas where we need to concentrate with the extension work. Now, there are different strategies that we can do. Probably over the period of 21 days, you will be listening to so many methods by which we can increase the production for the sustainable development. Now, as far as the extension methodologies for achieving the objectives of sustainable development, there are certain areas that we can concentrate and the work that we can do. One is situation analysis. What is actually the need in the society or in the state or in the country? That need-based analysis, or for the farmers for that matter, what is the actually need and what is the gap that is existing in the field that can be made known by situation analysis through either PRA or RRA techniques. Then accordingly, we can plan for training on scientific technologies that are being developed in the institutes, ICR institutes or universities or concerned institutes. Then another method is we can have the demonstrations of the different technologies for the further dissemination of the technology, so that the farmers, what they see, they believe, and they try to adopt those technologies or the methods. Then delivery of customized technologies, that's also very important. If a particular farmer is interested in dairy farming, all the scientific methods regarding the dairy farming should be told to him. If the area is well known for sheep and goat production, accordingly we need to plan our strategy. Then social media platforms can also be effectively used. For example, the livestock interested groups can be formed, their WhatsApp group can be formed, so that regularly the information can be passed on to those people. And mobile applications can also be another way of reaching the farmers to disseminate the information. So the focus should be on to increase the quality production and uniform growth amongst all types of farmers and villages through the concept of village adoption. That's what my topic of today's presentation is. Now, just for to make it easy, that village adoption model, why the institutes, ICR institutes or colleges need to adopt the villages for their work? It will be an extension lab for the institution, wherein we can know the situation, we can do the situation analysis through secondary data. There are a lot of institutions who will be having secondary data, and we can collect those secondary data for the situation analysis. And need analysis can also be done with the primary data. We can, the team can go there, collect the information, and then do the necessary analysis, and then know the actual gap. The information gap will also be done. And apart from this, we can also test the technologies that are being developed in the institutions or universities in that particular village, and demonstrations of the area specific technologies can also be done with the village adoption. Now, with this, our university and our college actually adapted the villages since 2007 with the objective of to create an exposure for the students on village situation. Many of the colleges, they are situated in major cities, and very difficult to have the village situation for the demonstration or for the practicals for the students. For example, in Bangalore, we need to go at least 40 to 50 kilometers away from the city to have the village condition, and how the village conditions will be. For the students, they will get an exposure for these village situation when we have that village being adopted for our technical implementation. Then secondly, to build up rapport between the institution and the farming community, we will have the first-hand information of the goings in the villages, what the problems they are facing in the animal husbandry or agriculture, that can be made known if the institution is having close rapport with the villages. So that is another objective. Then to provide technical services to the farming community, to have a practical experience in diffusion of extension advisory services, and to strategize on it, which method can be more effective for the farmers in the different technology transfer. Then to identify the gaps and addressing them in the farming community in implementation of scientific management practices in agriculture and animal husbandry. So with these objectives, we actually started adopting the village. And what is the procedure of village adoption? Now, as I mentioned, in 2007, when our university authority insisted on adopting a village by each college, then we proceeded with, in the beginning, we consulted with the officials of State Animal Husbandry Department. The nearby 2-3 districts deputy directors and assistant directors were contacted. We had very close meeting with them, and when we explained our aim or objectives of adopting a village, then accordingly they actually mentioned 3 or 4 villages, and college team visited those villages. The rapport building activities actually started with those villages. We had group meetings, and we also conducted Gram Sabha and the farmers meeting, wherein they actually gave the suggestions, or they were made to understand the purpose of the college for village adoption and what are the benefits that the village can get and what the benefit the college can get. So everything was discussed there, and later on when in general when the village people they accepted, then RRA methodologies were adopted for data collection. A team went there, did the RRA technique to collect the data and to have the first-hand information of the village, and the gap identification and need analysis were done at the later stage. Then after that, the final decision on village adoption was taken. Here, in case of the Veterinary College Bangalore, while adopting that village, we observed many things, whether there is any institution nearby, so that it can do the follow-up work of whatever the college has actually done, either in the treatment aspect or in the different training programs or in implementation of certain technologies. So any institution like Dairy Cooperative Society or any hospital nearby or veterinary dispensary nearby, all these things were consideration while adopting a village. Now, as I mentioned, Veterinary College Bangalore adopted a village called Haniyur nearby Bangalore North Taluk, and worked there for 5 years from 2007 to 12. Later on, we shifted to another village called Elliyuru in Devnalli Taluk, near Bangalore only. Between 2013 and 18, we worked there in that village. And in 2020, we actually adopted Badralli village in Nelamangala Taluk, but because of the corona pandemic, we could not do much so far. Now, then you can ask, what are the activities that you have conducted? As I mentioned, that need analysis and gap identification was done based on the primary data collection. Then the farmers actually mentioned that they were not having the scientific knowledge on sheep and goat rearing, the fodder production, and they also expressed that they were having a lot of the infertility problems among the dairy animals. So in that connection, we conducted lot of the infertility camps animal health and infertility camp. We call it as fertility camps also. Then sheep and goats were vaccinated regularly. Then they were dewormed. The dogs in that village were actually given anti-rabies vaccination. Then male dogs were operated for birth control. And apart from that, the trainings and guest lectures were also arranged in those villages. For example, on sheep and goat production, scientific sheep and goat rearing, or value addition of milk and meat product. So how to prepare the different products using milk or using egg or using meat. The demonstrations as well as trainings were arranged in those villages so that the people were benefited. Instead of taking the raw milk or milk daily, if it is converted into some product, the children also will eagerly consume those products, so that the protein, the nutritive value or the nutrition that is being given to the children will also be increased. So in that connection, we actually arranged the training programs and guest lectures in those villages. Then also we distributed the Swarnadhara birds. Probably you would have heard Swarnadhara. It is the the type of bird, poultry bird, which is actually developed by Poultry Department of Veterinary College, Bangalore, which is well adapted for the backyard poultry farming. The birds are reared as in case of the backyard poultry, but the number of eggs that we get will be definitely more than the native birds. We get around 180 to 200 birds eggs per bird per year. So that is the advantage. And the instead of rearing the native birds, local birds, they started rearing the Swarnadhara birds. And the very important point is we distributed the birds on cost basis. It is not distributed on free of cost. The people are also ready to take on purchase those birds, and they started rearing, and their nutrition status in the family also increased because of regular consumption of eggs. And those who are having the facility of Krishi Hondas or small ponds in their farm, they were given the fish fingerlings so that the integrated farming system can be practiced there along with the fish production. And the treatment of medicine, surgery and gynecology cases were being done regularly. And here we never extended any free gifts. There was all things were except the treatment aspect of the animals, though the drugs were given by our college and some clubs. In case of the birds distribution or fish fingerlings, they were all purchased by the farmers. They were not given free of cost. Now, some of the photos that I want to share here, using our UG students and PG students, we collected the information on these villages, and group discussions were held with the state animal husbandry department officials as well as the farmers in their own field and condition. The trainings were arranged, and the group discussions were also arranged amongst the village people. Apart from that, some of the demonstrations were also taken up. For example, the balanced ration preparation, whatever the local materials available in that village were taken, and the demonstrations were done how to do the formation, the balanced ration, how to prepare the balanced ration, and how to use those balanced ration in their livestock production. In the same way, the fodder enrichment. So urea enrichment of fodder is also done with the demonstrations in those villages. The villages, they learn by themselves of how to enrich the fodder. So in this way, many of the demonstrations were conducted in those villages. And for example, the silage preparation using the silo bags. Earlier, we used to, advocate the silage preparation with the pits. But nowadays, with small holdings of 1 or 2 animals, that type of pits may not be, advisable. So we actually had started advocating the farmers to have silage preparation in the form of the silo bags with 500 or 750 kg capacity. Silo bags are available, even 1000 kg capacity bags are available, and they can be moved from one place to other place, and farmers can easily handle these silage bags, and they can, if they prepare the silage with 1000 capacity, 1000 kg capacity bag, it can definitely serve for 3 months during the summer season for the 1 or 2 animals in their farm. So the silage preparation demonstrations were also done to popularize this particular technology. As I mentioned, even the health and fertility camps were extensively conducted, and not only the camps, but also the follow-up action was also done in those villages. I'll give the result of the camps that we have conducted. And even the treatment services were also extended, and some of these operations which can be conducted in the field condition was also done. Vaccination and deworming, as I mentioned, was the routine practice in the adopted village. And as I mentioned, probably all of you are aware of that, in India, the fodder production is not at all taking a good, way. The production, whatever the leftover is there in the agriculture is being fed to our animals, which are devoid of high nutritive content. So we advocate the 70% non-leguminous and 30% leguminous fodder, so that we can reduce the cost of production by decreasing the requirement of concentrates. But actually in the field, it is not at all happening. The product production is not at all taking any shape, real shape. So how to, influence the farmers, or how to, motivate the farmers to take up this type of the fodder production is also very challenging. And we started doing that by selecting some of the farmers in that village, convincing them to give at least 2 guntas or 3 guntas of land for the fodder production, intensive fodder production. Then we started, giving some of the inputs for like seeds and root strips for them. Then once the growth was there, the fodder production was there, we conducted demonstrations with all other farmers. We also conducted some of the, trials wherein by feeding 5 to 8 kg of the leguminous fodder every day, how their cost of production has decreased substantially, how the milk production and the quality, even the growth rate in the sheep and goat has also increased. All those things, demonstrations were also done. Even the fodder trees were promoted in these villages. This is the example of the picture showing the release of fingerlings in their ponds. And the rams were also distributed to the sheep farmers who are having 20 to 30 female ewes, to increase the quality of breeding, to avoid inbreeding, to minimize the lamb mortality. So the genetically improved rams were distributed in these villages. As I mentioned, the value addition of products, some of the programs were conducted in these villages regarding different meat and fish products preparation, and also value addition of milk. Now this is the photo showing Veterinary Council of India President Dr. Umesh Sharma visiting our adopted village and discussing with the farmers on fodder production aspect. Now, from our veterinary college, we developed even two mobile apps, one on fodder production with different fodders that are well suited for Karnataka weather. 16 fodder varieties were included in this particular mobile app, wherein all the production process, agronomical practices, the yield, harvesting season, the nutritional value, all these things of the fodders, both perennial as well as even the fodder trees were also information given through this mobile app. And another mobile app on dairy production, the different managemental aspects of dairy production, including the selection of animals, dairy animals, then the clean milk production, are all other around 16 different aspects of the dairy production were all included in this particular mobile apps. Both audio as well as visuals were there. And presently around 30,000 farmers, they actually downloaded these mobile apps and using in different parts of Karnataka. Even in our adopted village also, we actually gave this mobile apps to different farmers. They are also regularly using these. It serves as the ready reckoner for anything that they want to know about fodder production or dairy production. They can immediately go to their Android phone and then know this information. There is no internet that is needed. Only in the initial stage to download that is needed. Otherwise, in the village, they can use it as a book. Whenever they want any clarification, they can see these apps. So with these apps also, we are actually were disseminated in these villages. What are the progress that we made in the adopted village? Of course, as I mentioned, rapport building with the scientists definitely happened. And they used to call our scientists whenever they have problem with either surgery or medicine case or gynecology. And also in the nutritional aspect, they used to contact the scientists in our college. That rapport building has taken place and increase in the awareness and knowledge level of the farmers. Definitely with the different training programs that we conducted in those villages, the group discussions that we had with those villages, people in that village, actually increased the awareness as well as the knowledge level of the farmers in different scientific management practices. Then also receiving, as I mentioned, our college was extending only the technical input rather than any other materialistic input. Then they receiving technical services from the scientists of the college was there. Then the interesting thing is the long-term infertility problems of especially the large animals in those adopted villages were solved. For example, in Hanur village, around 82 high-yielding dairy cows were there, crossbred cows were there, which were having the infertility problem. Had it been not solved, they would have sold to the slaughterhouses because they were having chronic infertility problems. So with our intervention, with our the scientists or the teachers from our college regularly visiting, conducting camp, and then following up of the cases, we could achieve the success in around 78 out of 82 animals in that Anur village. 78 animals, they actually conceived and gave birth to young ones. The farmers were very happy. In the same way, in case of the Yelur village, out of 182 the infertility cases, we treated around 168. They have become pregnant and they have given birth to young ones. Their regular routine, the process of lactations continued. And another interesting thing in that village was they were all feeding the mulberry leaves ad libitum to these animals. And that was one of the reasons for the infertility in those villages. So then when we analyzed the situation, we suggested them not to go ahead with the feeding of mulberry leaves for the, animals. They stopped it only for the fattening purpose. In case of sheep, they started feeding the mulberry leaves not in case of the large animals meant for milk production. So in this way, we solved the problem of infertility in these villages. People were also very happy because the animals were very costly, maybe 1 lakh, 1.5 lakh worth animals. They were all, many of them were infertile. When we handled it, when we treated them, they became pregnant and the regular lactation started in those animals. Then receiving timely services of vaccination and deworming, especially in case of sheep and goat, was there. Then establishing the sustainable livelihood by receiving timely inputs like fish, fingerlings, rams, poultry birds, all those things, not on free of cost, but on cost basis, we distributed those things in the village. So these were the progress that we made in those villages. And also we have some challenges that we encountered while carrying out the extension work in these villages. Because of the proximity of these villages with the city, there was a lot of change in their occupation. Shift of occupation was there, or migration of occupation was there, because the land value has increased too much, and instead of having any livestock farming, they started selling their land for higher cost, and they used to be very happy. But still there are village people who are having this agriculture as well as animal breeding activities in those villages. Then the coordination with the line departments, of course, this is a small bottleneck that we faced, and later on we overcome those things. Because their program and our program should coincide, so that jointly we can do some progressive work in those villages. We actually, that also was sorted out, and we could be able to coordinate with the line departments like Animal Husbandry and the Milk Federation and other agencies. Then long-term supply of inputs is another challenge. Like, say, for example, some of the inputs we can't supply regularly for those people. For example, birds or fish, fingerlings. Whenever it's available, we can make them, to purchase those inputs. Then misuse of inputs, especially birds and rabbits. Of course, it's in a small number that we encountered. We overcome that problem also. Then mobilization of farmers for training and guest lecture. This is really one of the tough tasks that we faced. Of course, at later stage, when the rapport was built up, they were also convinced that people from the college were coming for their own benefit, and they started attending those trainings as well as the guest lectures. Of course, for follow-up cases, we need to have the vehicles and other things. That also we overcome, and then we could do the follow-up work with which the infertility problems in those villages and emergencies in those villages could be solved. Now, these are all certain areas where we have worked and we got the experience. In the similar way, I discussed with the people in colleges also. They also adopted certain villages, and they actually started working on dryland, agriculture production. What they did was they actually did the soil, health card. They assessed the soil, what actually the deficiency of a particular mineral is there or chemical is there. Accordingly, they suggested the farmers on scientific basis of using fertilizers, and they also did these works. And one of the important works that they have carried out was they used to give the information on the rainfall or other parameters that actually helped them in making their adjustments in the fertilizer application, or in case of the pesticide application. How we can do upscaling in Karnataka. This one, just an example I am quoting. Of course, it is true in all the states also. For example, in Karnataka, we have around 16,673 dairy cooperatives. That is village level dairy cooperative societies are there. Around 664 veterinary hospitals are there. Then we have around 1,833 veterinary dispensaries, 1,512 primary centers, veterinary centers, 176 mobile veterinary clinics. Then we have 33 KVKs, 6 agriculture universities, and with that 6 agriculture universities, we have many agriculture and horticulture colleges also. We have 5 veterinary colleges. We have 13 research stations under our own university. Then we have Rait Sampark Kendra 745. So much of institutions are there working for the development of our villages. So how they can take up these works? For example, dairy cooperatives, they have the contacts of dairy farmers. They can take up the trainings on value addition and of milk products, so that the utility of the milk in their own houses to increase the nutrition level can also happen. And also, whatever the excess of milk production is there in Karnataka, it can also be solved to some extent by if the farmers themselves they use the milk in the form of different products. They can form the self-help groups so that amongst themselves they can share the information, either in the dairy or in the agriculture. Whatever the problems that they have, they can share. And if anybody has seen the success, that also can be shared. And the different schemes can also be introduced. The government of India, government of Karnataka, or any state government will also regularly launch different programs in the agriculture as well as dairy sector that can also be properly implemented in those villages. And they can also coordinate with the different institutions, like whatever the nearby KVKs are there, or veterinary college or agriculture colleges are there. They can have the coordination through which they can conduct some training programs, because they are very close to the farming community. Rather than the other institutions in the cities, these dairy cooperatives are having very close connections, network with the villages, and they have better understanding of the different farmers, so they can take up the work. For example, if a dairy cooperative society thinks in the direction of increasing the fodder production, they can select 5 or 10 farmers in a village. They can give different fodders, root slips or seeds. They can guide them to develop the fodder production, both leguminous and non-leguminous. They can show them how the leguminous fodder can increase the milk yield, reduce the requirement of concentrate. Like that, they can definitely take up this extension work in their vicinity or in their operational areas. Now, animal husbandry and veterinary services, Department of Animal Husbandry and Veterinary Services of the state, they can actually take up the trainings, because the doctors are there, they are well trained, they have the knowledge of animal husbandry, for example, on clean milk production, or the deworming, or the correct method of heat detection, or silage preparation, or fodder production. On all these, the necessary aspects, they can extend the trainings in their villages, in the village, adapted village. They can have the demonstrations, like for example, on clean milk production, a correct method of milking, they can have the demonstration, or silage making, they can have the demonstration. Like that, there are many practices which they can demonstrate there to make the farmers understand and motivate them to adopt those technologies. They can regularly conduct animal health and fertility camps, so that the farmers' problem can be addressed regularly. Then whatever the schemes are there, launched by governments, state government or central government, they can also be extended in those villages. So coordination with various institutions, it is true with any of the institution which is adopting village. Then rapport building and coordination with line departments or other departments can also be done by Animal Husbandry and Veterinary Services, Department of Animal Husbandry and Veterinary Services. Now KVKs, they can do actually, if they start adopting, not only coordinating with the other institutions in the district or in the operational area, they can also do all this on-farm testing, front-end demonstrations. They can train those people in that village with special reference to the different needs of those farmers, maybe in the agriculture area or in animal husbandry area, so that the farmers will be benefited, in those villages. Then they can also coordinate with the various institutions. They can have the rapport building activities. Then another aspect, in case of universities, veterinary and agriculture universities, definitely the adapted village can be a lab for their research and development work. As I mentioned in the initial stage, these adapted villages will definitely work as a lab for our research as a development work. Any validation, if it is necessary, it's already proven in our universities, in our research stations, but to be evaluated in the field condition, that definitely adapted village with little bit of input, we can do wonders, and we can also convince the farmers about the worth of practicing those technologies. Then training can be extended by these universities and colleges, and coordination, definitely they can coordinate with the dairy cooperatives or KVKs in those villages. Many activities can be conducted. Research stations, as I mentioned, of course, in the similar way as that of universities, the research and testing can be done, evaluation can be done, and geographic area-specific technologies can also be extended in these areas. For example, there is a sheep research station, and that particular sheep is well adapted in those areas. That, whatever the technologies that are related to the sheep production can be extended in those areas. Now, for example, National Institute of Animal Health and Animal Nutrition and Physiology, they have actually conducted the research in the entire country, where which part of the countries are deficient in which minerals and other things. Accordingly, those minerals are to be added to the feed in the case of the livestock production in those areas. So they have identified and they have actually come out with the recommendations. Those things can also be extended in those areas where our villages, adapted villages were there. Then the Red Sampark Kendras, though it's actually meant mainly for input services, they can also, because of the close proximity with the farmers in those villages, they can also take up some of the demonstrations, some of the training programs. They can arrange the training programs. Whatever schemes are there, those schemes can be implemented in those areas. So they can also coordinate with the different institutions like veterinary institutions or dairy cooperatives or the nearby colleges or research stations, so that whatever the benefit that is necessary can be extended in those villages into those farmers. As I mentioned in case of dairy cooperative, in the same way, these people, the RSKs, can also extend the adapting some of the farmers for the fodder production. So this is just the development, animal husbandry development in adapted village. Just we can plan for 1 to 3 years or 5 years. We can forecast the application on various diseases. Information dissemination can be done. Coordination with line institutions and line departments can also be done. Input delivery in the initial stage can also be extended in these villages. So if we adopt a particular village for 3 years or 5 years, we can do actually some of the very novel work in those areas, so that, say, as I mentioned, in Karnataka we have around more than 20,000 institutions. if these 20,000 institutions, they can work in 20,000 villages, if they can adopt, say, under 10 farmers, around 2 lakh farmers can be benefited with this type of, the improved work, apart from the general work that we take up in those villages. So with this, I would like to conclude sharing my experiences with adopted village, which can also be one of the ways of the rural development work that our farm universities can take up. So with this, I conclude. If any questions are there, I am here to take.
Thank you very much for your very good lecture, sir. Your experience was very interesting.
Yeah.
I am Dr. C. Anand, working as assistant professor in Tamil Nadu Fisheries University, sir.
Okay.
Since I am from the fisheries background, could you please share any experience if you had in especially this fish culture in the villages?
Yeah. Thank you. Actually, we in the adopted village of Hannur as well as Yellur, some farmers were there with small ponds, having the water level for 6 to 8 months. So accordingly, whatever the technology that were available with our fishery research center in Hebbal, we extended those fingerlings which can weigh around 1 to 1.5 kg by the end of 6 months or 8 months. The water was used to be there in those ponds for 6 to 8 months. We distributed those fingerlings in those farmers' ponds, and farmers were actually benefited with that. Inland fishery can definitely be promoted with these type of adapted villages. And our experience with Sujala 3 in Karnataka, we adopted, we actually worked in Chamarajanagar as well as in Davangere as far as fish development is concerned. In the earlier stage, in Chamarajanagar district, they were all, purchasing the fish from the coastal areas. Now, presently, around 3 tons of fish being produced inside that particular district with different programs that we have taken. We adopted the tanks also, wherein we promoted the village people to take up the fish farming in those tanks. So in this way, that definitely fish production can also be promoted with inland fishery development in those areas. So any other questions?
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Sir, Prakash Rathod, sir.
Prakash.
Sir, I just want to add one more thing to Dr. Anand sir's question.
Yeah.
Like we have actually one talk coming up with this based on actually fisheries livelihood itself. Yeah. Anand sir, can you hear me?
Sir, I am hearing, sir. Please go ahead,
yeah,
sir.
We have actually one lecture coming up from Dr. Ananthan, who is from CIFE, principal scientist from CIFE. And I think he will be discussing about the models or actually the livelihood approaches followed for fishery sector development. I think even Satyanarayana sir has also given some of his experiences. Maybe more details we can even get from the presentation of Dr. Ananthan.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions, please?
Sir, Satyanarayana sir, Dr.
Yes.
Sir.
Okay.
Sir, there was one question in the chat box, sir.
Okay.
So the question was, what criteria should be adopted in selecting the village for adoption village?
Yeah, as I mentioned, what we did was we discussed with the concerned line departments nearby. One is the approach. Within 1 hour, we should be in a position to approach that village. Second thing is, what are some institutions which can support our work, like dairy cooperative in case of the animal husbandry sector, or the veterinary hospital or dispensary, so that the follow-up work can also be taken up by these people in case of the animal husbandry sector. Of course, in agriculture sector, the proximity is one of the important criteria, and also the farmers groups. That is very important, which can help the youth associations or some interested farmers group, that actually helps in carrying out our work more efficiently. Okay.
Any other question, please?
Probably.
I don't think there are any further questions. Dr.
Okay.
Prakash, can you provide the formal vote of thanks?
Yeah, sure, Majid ji. So thank you very much, sir, for your sharing your experiences with actually about the village adoption and actually different methods or actually models what we can follow in the process of village adoption. I'm sure actually majority of the participants will be enlightened with this presentation. And apart from this, I also in this context actually on behalf of all our organizing committee as well as my personal behalf, and as well as from the participant side, I would like to thank you very much for sparing your valuable time and sparing your valuable experiences, sharing your valuable experiences with our participants. Okay. So similarly, I also thank all the participants for their patient hearing and actually having a good discussion in the presentation. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much for providing an opportunity to share my experiences. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, all the participants and all the organizers. Let us meet tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.